It is second class. We missed last 1 or 2 classes due to some unavoidable reasons. Maybe on your part or my part, I don't remember. So now we continue, and I will definitely compensate by taking some extra classes. And tomorrow class will not be possible because tomorrow we have IRC meeting. In IRC meeting, all the scientists of agronomy will be busy all the day. So we will compensate tomorrow's class by weekend and maybe on Sunday. So in the last lecture, I discussed about some brief history of organic agriculture in India and outside India. And also we have seen the kind of efforts which have been made by Government of India in the promotion of organic farming. Now we have our own organic standards. We have our certification system in place. Now we have market. I will discuss you sometimes later how marketing of organic products is being done in India. What are the facilities available to market organic products in India? So today we are going to see some introductory part. Of course, somebody else might have taught you simple definition, principles, differences with conventional farming, current status, and need. But I also want to touch these topics from my perspective in brief. And you see on the bottom of this, my name, you find CHEF. This is chef. Chef is a kind of acronym I normally use for principles of organic farming. So you can very easily remember chef, 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 principle of care, principle of health, principle of ecology, and principle of fairness. So it is very easy to remember 4 principles of organic farming proposed by IFOAM, International Federation of Organic Agricultural Movements. Now, today we will learn the definition, principle, need, and different variants of organic farming and some issues related to food quality and safety. And what are the differences in conventional and organic products or organic foods, and how these pesticides are causing trouble or how they are making our food unsafe, and what is the status of GM crops so far organic farming is concerned. Can we use GM crops in organic farming or not? Now, if we see many times students gets confused that should I call it organic farming or organic agriculture. I have analyzed these two words through dictionaries and through some other sources, and I conclude that in developing countries like ours or India, people prefer organic farming as the term, and at international level in Europe or in America or some other countries, they prefer the word organic agriculture. Practically, there is no difference in organic farming or organic agriculture. You can use either of these. So because organic word is common in both, but only difference is farming and agriculture. If there is any difference in farming and agriculture, then there could be difference in organic farming and organic agriculture. So let us see what is agriculture. The science, art, or practice of cultivating the soil. First you cultivate the soil, producing crops and raising livestock, and in varying degrees, the preparation and marketing of the resulting products. So it includes all the operations related to crop production and raising the animal, starting from sowing up to the harvest and up to the level of marketing. These are all part of agriculture. Cambridge Dictionary says agriculture is equivalent to farming. It defines farming. The farming is defined as the practice or work of farming, the business, science, or activity of farming. See, another meaning is the practice of agriculture or aquaculture is farming. See, next meaning of farming, the activity of working on a farm or organization, the work there, the business or activity of raising animals, growing crops, etc. on a farm. So now you can see that there is hardly any difference in agriculture and farming. So they are synonymous. There are three words. They are almost synonymous: agriculture, farming, and husbandry. They are same. So therefore, you can call it organic farming or organic agriculture. It depends upon your choice. And as such, farm, if I ask you what is farm, so a tract of land devoted to agricultural purposes. So you should remember definition of a farm if you are a student of agriculture. Anybody can ask you what is a farm. So farm is a tract of land devoted to agricultural purposes. Or those who can remember it in Urdu, I give you can also remember जर्रे जमीन का वो हिस्सा जो काबिले काश्त हो, काबिले काश्त हो. जर्रे जमीन का वो हिस्सा means part of the land जो काबिले काश्त हो, which is able to be cultivated. That is called as a farm. So farm is a tract of land devoted to agricultural purposes. Now let us see one word, organic. So it has got different meanings. Organic in chemistry, it has got different meaning. Now people are talking using this prefix in many places, like organic thoughts, organic cloth. His ideas are organic. See, sometimes people say ideas are organic. Many times some words got very many uses and misuses, like fabulous. So it is very difficult to know the meaning of fabulous. So this fabulous word is used indiscriminately. Similarly, now organic word people are using indiscriminately. And for your knowledge, I can say that this prefix can be used to any agricultural commodity. Agricultural commodity, whether it is your agronomic crops, whether it is horticultural crops, whether it is animal product, organic meat, organic egg, organic fish, organic prawns, organic sugar, organic this, organic that. So you can use this word. Some of you might be remembering the one movie was there, Disco Dancer. You must have heard the name Disco Dancer. Maybe by that year it came in 1982 or sometimes that, and maybe you were born that time or later. So in those days in India, whenever you wanted to sell anything, you will say it is disco. Disco watch, disco pen, disco shirt, disco shoe, disco hair, disco boy, disco girl. So everywhere it was disco, disco, disco in the country. So similarly now, it is all organic, organic, organic. Somewhere it is being used correctly and somewhere it is being used incorrectly also. So let us see what is organic. Belonging to or inherent in a living being, means pertaining to a particular living being, constitutional or natural. This is one meaning of organic. It can be related to a fertilizer or manure produced from natural substances, usually without the addition of chemical. So this is for manure. And sometimes manures are also called as fertilizer because they are used to fertilize the land, to make the land rich in nutrients. So that is in certain Western country, fertilizer, they take synonymous to the manure. So don't get confused with chemical fertilizers. So organic can be of a method of farming, organic method of farming or gardening, using no chemical fertilizers, pesticides, or other artificial chemicals, also designating a farmer. Farmer can be organic farmer or a gardener utilizing such methods. So he can be organic farmer or a farm on which the method is employed. It can be organic farm or conventional farm. It can be related to food also. It is used as a prefix, food produced without the use of artificial fertilizer, pesticide, chemical. So now you understand the meaning of organic. Or normally, organic means coming from or part of living things. Organic means coming from or part of living thing is your organic. So describing things that are natural. Other meaning is organic meaning is describing things that are natural. So organic used about fruit, vegetable, meat that is produced without using chemicals. Organic meaning in biology. It is living or relating to living things. Living or relating to living thing is also organic and containing carbon in some form. In agriculture, the science or practice of farming. Sorry, agriculture meaning the science or practice of farming. So you see, farming, agriculture, they are synonymous. And farming is the activity of raising animals or growing crops on a farm. So you see, agriculture, farming, husbandry, you can use them interchangeably. Now, organic agriculture, it has been defined by IFOAM, defined by APIDA. There are so many definitions of organic farming, but overall, you can define it a kind of production system where synthetic or artificial inputs are avoided, and most of the time, the inputs which are available on the farm are used, and there is no use of chemical fertilizer or synthetic pesticides, etc. Such farming is your organic farm. And here emphasis is given on soil biology. People like to rejuvenate the biology of the soil. So you can see it is in two parts, this definition of organic agriculture proposed by IFOAM. Organic agriculture is a production system that sustains the health of soils, ecosystems, and people. So straightway, this definition is saying that it must sustain the health of the soil, ecosystem, and people. It relies on ecological processes. Here, ecological processes means natural processes. Natural processes, biodiversity. Biodiversity means the kind and species, the variety, the kind and quantity of different species present in a particular system, or particular ecosystem. Biodiversity means we have how many different kind of organism are there and what is their number. That is your biodiversity. And biodiversity and cycles adapted to local conditions rather than the use of inputs with adverse effect. So this indirectly says that you cannot use the inputs, you cannot use input that adversely affect the biodiversity, that adversely affect the ecological processes. So there are n number of ecological processes which happen above the ground and under the ground. And they happen in natural ecosystems, they happen in artificial ecosystem. Our agricultural system is artificial agricultural system, or artificial, this agro-ecosystems are actually artificial. And natural ecosystems may be somewhere, some kind of forest system, in some places maybe some oceans system which are not disturbed by the human beings, or some other kind of ecosystems. So here you can get interpretation of definition of this organic agriculture. Now, another definition is by APIDA. Organic products are grown under a system of agriculture without the use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, with an environmentally and socially responsible approach. So this is how it defined by APIDA, and it preserves. So I divided this definition into two parts, but as such, it is a one definition. It preserves the reproductive and regenerative capacity of the soil, good plant nutrition, and should sound soil management produces nutritious food rich in vitality, which has resistance to diseases. So overall, you can see in these definitions, the emphasis is given on the maintenance of the soil health, maintenance of the environmental health, and maintenance of human health. So all sorts of these are achievable only when we do not use synthetic fertilizer, chemical fertilizer, or pesticides or antibiotics or other harmful substances. If we use any harmful substance, then that can affect your soil, environment, or human health. So emphasis is given on three aspects in the definition of organic agriculture. And here I want to tell you that organic agriculture is not merely a production system. It also involves some philosophy, lot of philosophy of harmony. Means why these kind of definitions are there? They suggest that we should live in harmony with the nature. We should not harm anybody. We should not harm the organism living in the soil. We should not harm the organism which are above the soil. We should not disturb their cycles. Their cycles should be restored. There should be sufficient food for all organisms in the soil and above the soil. And also, even it takes into consideration the people who are involved in the system of organic production or processing. So in this case, you will find a lot of farmers, lot of laborers, lot of people are also there. Animals are also there. So there should be humanitarian treatment with the farm animal also. They should not be beaten. The cow should not be stall fed. The cow should get some time for grazing. Cow should get clean water. Cow should get appropriate shelter. Cow should get appropriate bedding. That is also part of organic agriculture definition. A cow should be happy. Similarly, a laborer who is working on organic farm, is he happy or not? Is he getting 2 times sufficient food? Is he getting sufficient earnings by which he can use that money for his family? Are his children going to the school? Are his children getting health care from the people? Means, do they have some system of health care or not? That is also part of organic agriculture. I tell you, the philosophy of organic agriculture includes many, many more things, so that all the organisms, all the individuals which are involved in it, maybe from outside or inside, everybody should be happy. Similarly, in this case, it is also seen that laborer who are having a house, is their house well ventilated or not? Are they getting sufficient sunlight and water in their house, or getting air, good ventilation in their home or not? Are their children going to school or not? This is also coming under the definition of organic farming, if you see it as a philosophy. Similarly, next, you can get processing system. And in processing system, you have factories. You have some units where processing is done. So in that also, you need to see that everybody is happy. Similarly, transport happens. In transport, this driver is there. So driver will take your products from one place to another place. Is driver happy or not? Does he have clothes? Is this particular driver having 6 hours sleep or 8 hours sleep or not? That is also part of organic agriculture philosophy. You can include it. So now I think you could have got the meaning of organic farming. It is not just do not allow chemicals and pesticide. That farming is organic farming. No, it has so many things. Even the strict people, they do not allow artificial insemination of cows. They want, let us have natural kind of insemination. So because you are depriving a cow from its rights actually, or other. So likewise, there are so many things, so many more things which I do not want to explain in much details, but those are very philosophical things. Some people are very strict. They say that first you allow the child, or what to be heifer, or the young baby of cow is called as calf, calf, calf. Calf is for male and heifer is for female. So this calf and heifer, they should get the milk from their mother, and then whatever is left, then your right comes. But in practice, people take out the milk, they remove, and then they leave one tit for the calf or heifer. So that should not be the case as per philosophy of organic farming. You can have now machines are there to take out milk from cows or buffaloes. Now, even in organic many people have thoughts or ideas. Don't go for machine. Use your hands. because from machine it is inhuman. It is like this. Some people put forward this fact, but anyhow, some adjustment have been made in the modern agriculture. It is not that extreme. For example, you know, this diesel or your petrol or these kind of fuel, you can use in organic agriculture. You can use a tractor, and tractor consume fuel, which is a fossil fuel, and it pollutes the environment. But this kind of system is adjusted, it is allowed. Similarly, this polythene is also allowed in organic farming. If you want to make a poly house and grow organic crops, it is allowed. If you want to use polythene as a mulch, it is allowed. However, polythene from environmental point of view is not good thing. Many environmentalists will not like polythene to see on the earth. So that is somehow allowed. Similarly, these hybrids are also allowed. GM crops are not allowed in that case. So something have been accommodated considering the modern times in the organic farming. So it cannot be natural farming. And in natural farming, you cannot use fossil fuels. You cannot use petrol, diesel, tractor, etc. Now, over years, everybody likes to have his own religion. If I am there, I want more religion. See, in India, in the world, so many thousand kind of religions are there. And why these thousand kind of religion are there? Because everybody likes to have his or her own religion, own thoughts should percolate and others should follow them. So that is why similarly in the field of organic agriculture, many people came and they professed different ideas, some common ideas, and they wanted to have farming in their own way. I have shown you some history part also. Somebody said biodynamic agriculture, somebody said ecological, natural farming, this and that, zero star. So likewise, there are a number of variants of organic farming, but the fundamental message from all is that never use fertilizer, never use pesticide, try to use the natural sources. And in all of them, they say that you maintain good soil health, maintain good environmental health, provide sufficient income to the people and have the healthy food. So overall, they are just for the namesake, but most of them have many common things. So organic farming, modern organic farming, this belongs to Albert Howard. Biodynamic agriculture, Rudolf Steiner. Permaculture from Australia, given by biologist Bill Mollison and his student David Holmgren. Natural farming, Fukuoka. Agroecological farming or agroecological agriculture. Now, this subject is very common in America. For organic agriculture, they are calling it agroecological farming or simply ecological farming. Because ecological farming is not possible, as I told you, means you have to be in natural ecology. So therefore, they name it agroecology or agroecological farming. A lot of research work is going on in France and USA on agroecology. Sustainable yogic agriculture. So this is kind of organic agriculture. You do your organic agriculture, but you sit there for 2 hours or 1 hour in the morning and 1 or 2 hours in the evening and do your yoga or yoga there beside the field. So this sustainable yogic agriculture was also there, but it has not been proved by scientific methods. So 1 year we tested this sustainable yogic agriculture. Means you grow your crop by following all the organic agricultural procedures. In addition to that, you need to do some yogic things there. Yogic things means just you sit there and remember your God, see your mind. I don't know what they do. So what happened, Director IRE asked us to compare this yogic agriculture with conventional agriculture. So we had 2 plots of mung bean. In one, we followed the yogic agriculture. In another, we followed the normal farming or chemical farming. So in the end, yield was more in chemical farming than yogic agriculture. So there are a number of trials. So it's really just for the religious people that they are promoting this yogic agriculture, but it is nothing. It means just organic farming plus some bhajan. People do bhajan. You know, bhajan means when you sit and you remember your God, you speak something in your mouth. You don't speak loudly. That kind of posture, bhajan. I think you know bhajan, aarti, sandhya, this and that. So sustainable yogic culture, Brahma Kumaris, it is there in Mount Abu and working, but it is nowhere adopted by farmers. Then your homeopathic farming or agricultural homeopathic, this concept was given by Samuel Hahnemann, etc. So this was in Germany for some time, but it is just for the namesake. Nobody is doing it. Other is Homa farming, Agnihotra. This is just to make people foolish. It has nothing. Just illiterate people, illiterate farmers who are not educated, they can be very easily be fooled just by doing havan. Havan, many of you might be learning that you take some pot of earth or pot, any pot, and in that pot you put some branches, dry branches of mango or some other material, burning material, and then you put some samagri, and then you burn it, and some smoke will come out, and this smoke will increase your yield. So can anyone believe it? Homa farming. Hello? What is your view on homa farming? It means just by doing some little bit of a smoke near the field, will it increase the yield? Will it increase the quality of the product? How many of you agree to it? Kadapa? This is just to play with the sentiments of the people. It is nothing more than that. But of course, I can say these things in the class, but I cannot say in certain states of India. I cannot say these things. Otherwise, I will be anti-national person. I am teaching you science. I'm teaching you science, but I can be anti-national also. So anyway, this homa farming, practically, it is not doing to do anything, I tell you. It is just befooling the people and nothing more than that. And even I have seen one scientist who was director of an institute. Director of an institute, he is promoting it because he sees his bread and butter in this. He's earning some money out of this. He's getting consultancy. He's training the people in this. So that way, he's happy in his post-retirement life. But he does not know he's playing with the sentiment of the people. He's unnecessarily thrusting his unsounded views or unscientific views on the people. Anyway, Vedic Kheti, similar kind of thing. Rishi Kirshi Deshpande agriculture technique. I don't know how many people are doing it, but it is there, my friends. Cow-based organic farming, these days it is in big name. Go Mata Kheti means you can know the details. Vaishnav Kheti, Ahimsa Kheti. There are so many names run by so many mafias. I can call here as mafias because I like to call them mafias. They are playing with the sentiments of the people, illiterate people. They are befooling them. So was the case of zero budget natural farming. It has nothing. It is zero farming, and it is just promoted by politicians. And the person who is there is very bold person, and he can influence the politician. And once you influence the politician, your technology can spread, and then farmers will reject it. So it is the case of zero budget natural farming. It is just a loud voice, nothing more than that. Low budget natural farming, low cost organic farming. These are just fundamentally variants of organic farming, and most of them are not practiced by farmers. They are not there, and it is only mostly they are promoted by gurus or religious people. Anybody has any comment up to now, any question, any concern you like to discuss here? You are free to speak at this point of time. Anybody, any question?
No, sir, no.
All of you are there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. Please be there. Now, see, I think by now somebody might have explained you the meaning of these four principles of organic farming. Principle of health should sustain the health of soil, plant. Everybody should be happy, good health. Whosoever are the players in organic farming, they should be happy. The players are the soil, players are environment, plant, animal, human beings. So all should have good health. Principle of ecology should be based on living ecological systems and cycles, work with them, emulate them, and help sustain them. This is the most important part, that we should rely on more on natural cycles. As I told you sometimes back in the last class, that in natural system, the population of each and every organism, whether animal, plant, or microorganism, whatever it is, the population is controlled. It is within the limit. It is within the bearable limits or carrying limits. Whatever a particular soil, particular system can carry, according to carrying capacity of that particular ecosystem, the population of the organism or whatsoever are involved there is balanced there. It is in balance. But in artificial system, in our agro-ecosystem, we have lost many cycles. Many cycles. You know, if you cut one tree, anywhere you watch a tree very closely, any tree, in the city or in the village or in the forest, anywhere you see a tree, now you try to analyze that how many people, how many not people, organisms are dependent upon that particular tree. There may be number of birds that will use that tree. There may be number of insects that will use that tree. The insect may be flying insect or just walking kind of insect. And there may be 1,000 variety of insects, 1,000 variety of fungi, microbes, this and that. And on that particular tree or nearby trees, there may be 1,000 kind of cycles which are happening. There may be 1,000 kind of food webs. A small fungi may be eating bacteria, bacteria may be eating fungi, or this some kind of bigger fungi may be there. Those can be used by some other organism, bird can eat them. And then, so they are dependent, they have, their cycles are complete. Their cycles are complete. These are ecological cycles, natural cycle, which are happening above the ground, which are happening on the tree, which are happening on the plant. And it can get completed at one particular plant, or there may be many more plants. There may be 4, 5, 10 trees. There may be 10 or 20 different kind of trees in a location. For example, you see certain fungi, they have got some alternate host. One is the main host, but there may be some alternative host also. And part of its life cycle is completed in other organism, on other organism. Part is completed in one organism. There are many, many examples in the nature where one organism completes its life cycle in 2 other animals, or it is dependent for 2 or 3 other animals. If that particular animal is killed or it is wiped out, then what will happen to it? It will automatically die. So if we cut 1 tree, 10 trees, 20 trees, then we are disturbing or killing many, many ecological cycles or natural cycles. It is matter of fact. And if we disturb the nature, nature will give us the punishment. So this was the case of just cutting 1 tree. So if we see in nature, this was above ground. And similarly, underground also, 1,000 kind of cycles are going on. And most of these ecological cycles are useful to us, useful to soil, useful to plant, and useful to each other also. And the simplest, the most common is decomposition of organic matter. Decomposition of organic matter, if we get sufficient or balanced quantity or balanced number of all organisms that are involved in decomposition, it will be fast, it will be good decomposition. If the population of organism working there gets disturbed, if one is dominated, other is not, then it will not be very effective. Law of minimum is applicable everywhere. You need minimum population of all the organisms to do a job. They work together. So if during your decomposition of organic matter, you just get more fungi and there are no nematode, there are no bacteria. So these fungi alone cannot decompose everything. You need bacteria, you need nematode. Similarly, it can be other way around also. So this should be based on living ecological system. Means in the organic system, we should encourage the ecological cycles or ecological process above ground and underground. Then only we can succeed in it. Therefore, principle of ecology is very, very important. See, human beings. Human beings, how come he made the aeroplane? Aeroplane, he's just seen the bird. Bird was flying and it has feathers and it has a very thin tail and you see it has a nose, something like that. And human being realized, now you see any aeroplane, it is just duplicate of a bird. It is similar to a bird. Now you can modify, change, because birds also have 1,000 varieties. So then you can make your plane some nose down, nose up, left, right, whatever you want. But man has learned from nature. That is why it was successful making aeroplane. Similarly, there are so many hidden treasure or hidden things in the nature that we can still learn and apply to our daily life. So principle of ecology is very, very important in principle of organic farming. Principle of fairness should build on relationship that ensure fairness with regard to the common environment and life opportunities. Fair and just environment for people to live. So there has to be fair, principle of fairness and principle of care should manage in precautionary. So you can see the meaning of these four words. Now see friends, there are I am telling you the place of organic farming in the modern farming. So you got modern farming, conventional farming, chemical farming, industrial farming, agriculture farming. I've shown you some history, how this chemical farming started in Europe and America, how it started after Green Revolution in India. So you know those kind of things. So currently, most of our farming is chemical farming. It can be referred as industrial farming or industrial agriculture or conventional agriculture. And also modern agriculture or modern farming is your chemical farming. See the number 3. Number 3 is organic agriculture, organic farming, or organic systems. You can call it farming or agriculture. In between these two extremes is your integrated crop management. And also integrated crop management can be part of integrated farming system. So I think this is the best approach. Now people are recommending. All the ICR Institute, SAUs, they give thrust on integrated crop management or integrated farming system. So this is in between these two extremes. One is fully chemical use, pesticide, fertilizers, and so on. And in the number 3, there is no use of these pesticides or insecticides. However, there is approach, which is ICM, where you can make some use of, or you can make use of chemicals, fertilizers, but to the minimum. So this ICM covers your integrated pest management, disease management, integrated weed management, integrated nutrient management, focuses on pest, disease, weeds, nutrient management, etc. And if you take ICM only, ICM takes care of crops only, integrated crop management, but this can be combined with animals also. Then it becomes farming system. Farming system and integrated farming system when you integrate several enterprises, not just animal here means livestock, and then you can include fishery, you can include duckery, honeybee, and so on. So this is how you can see place of 3 different farming in India or any place of the world. Now plant breeders and most of the people are professing integrated farming system or integrated crop management system. Now, many times students are asked in their interviews, and you should have idea, difference in conventional and organic farming. What are the major differences? So I tried to make some differences in this organic and conventional farming. Agricultural inputs, there are differences based upon, there are differences can be made on certain criteria, certain points. These are, for example, based upon inputs, productivity, food safety, soil health, GM crops, biodiversity, environment, economics. If you keep all these points in mind, then you can easily make the difference. For example, agricultural inputs. So in conventional farming, use chemical fertilizer, use pesticide. In organic, not allowed. Productivity, I will discuss later how productivity behaves in two kind of systems, conventional and organic. You will have some knowledge. You have some knowledge of, I will give you some knowledge of productivity. Food safety and quality, definitely organic foods are safer and conventional food are not safer. They can contain pesticide residues. Quality is always good in organic, not in conventional. Soil health is good in organic, not in conventional. GM crops are allowed in conventional in some countries, and they are never allowed in organic system in any country. Biodiversity is improved in organic farming, and it declines in conventional farming. Biodiversity. Environment is safe, more safe under organic system, and less safe in conventional farming. And economics I will deal later. But at this particular point of time, you can say that organic products will give you more income. Organic farming will give you more income than the conventional farming. I tell you one case just today. Today I give you one responsibility to find prices, and that will be your practical also. I may give you in practical class when we used to have some offline classes in IRA. I would send students to the market in different shops, and that was the practical. And I will ask them just to compare the prices of product. So what they will do, they will go to departmental store, Connaught Place here and there in the vegetable market, and they will find certain products which are organic and conventional also. And they will write down the list. They will make a list of prices of different commodities, conventional commodity and organic commodity. And then they will compare the difference in the prices. So we come to conclusion that almost 3 to 4 times more prices of organic products over the conventional product. So today you can try yourself, go to Google and type any product. For most of the product you have idea. For example, this wheat flour, atta. Any atta may be at 20-25 rupees a kg, normal atta or normal flour. If you buy organic atta, how much it can be? Can anybody guess? Normal atta, wheat atta or rice atta or sorghum atta can be 20-25 rupees per kg. So what will be the price of 1 kg organic atta flour? Any guess?
100 to 200 rupees.
100 to 200 rupees. Any other guess?
Around.
Any other
100.
guess? Okay, I request one of you to immediately browse Google and see the price of wheat flour. Just see and tell me what are the ranges of price. Please, one of you just try it in your phone if you can. You Google and see the price of wheat atta. Just type this. Wheat flour. Till then, I can take some, sip a glass of water.
Hello, sir.
How much?
Sir,
380 around. 380 around.
380 rupees.
27 kg है sir prices का bag में जो आता है.
No, just see 1 kg. Convert it for 1 kg. I'm asking 1 kg how much is costing. 1 kg organic atta.
Organic.
380, sir. 380 around and 300 like that.
Good. So I sometimes back I have also seen. I was also shocked to see that 1 kg atta, which is costing rupees 25, is 380 or 400. I have seen up to 500, I tell you. And organic rajma, just do one more job. Organic rajma or organic any pulse. Normally pulses are sold at about 80 to 100 rupees a kg in our country at present. Any pulse. So you type any pulse, green gram, organic green gram, or organic lentil, organic pigeon pea kya hai yaar, organic rajma. So try one or two pulses also and see their prices. Normally it is 80, at the most 80 to 100 rupees a kg.
Sir, around 480 kg. 480
480 means 500 rupees a kg.
Yes,
so
sir.
now you see normal price of this particular pulses is 100 rupees. Now it is 500 is organic. So 5 times more.
Yes,
and
sir.
atta is 25. 400 divided by 25. How much will it come? Whatever it is. So now you can see the difference in prices. They are 4 to 5 times expensive than the conventional product. You can do more exercise. And on an average, you can see they are 4 to 5 times expensive. So do you think that it will be profitable or it will not be profitable? If your prices are 5 times than the conventional product, so will it be profitable job or it will not be profitable? What is your view?
More profitable, sir.
More profitable. So organic farming will give you more profit than conventional farming. But problem here is that sometimes there is penalty on the productivity. Sometimes productivity is less by 25 to 35% lower. This is one. And second is that whatever price we are seeing, 400, 500, this price is actually not going to the farmer. This is by middlemen. So what people are doing, they buy organic product from farmers and from there they start marketing it. They will pack, they will give some brand to it, and then they will sell in the market. And it is as usual, there will be farmer share will be very less in the consumer's price. So I will discuss sometimes later. Anyway, but still, farmer will get 20 to 25% more profit from organic farming than over the conventional farm. So it is not that too much of profit, 500, 5 times, 4 times, it will go to the farmer. It will not. It will be involved in some transport charges by some people who are middlemen, this and that. You understand marketing channels are there. So by the time consumer get it, it has passed already 5, 6 hands from farmer will give to wholesale market and this will go to another next retailer and this and that. So some process is there, therefore price gets increased, but farmer is not getting that anything from this increased price. And this is applicable for all kind of product, not just conventional product or organic product. Whatever farmer do, that is the weakness of the farmer. Farmer cannot directly supply their products to the consumers. That is why middlemen are always taking advantage. Now, this you can go through these kind of things I have already told you. The difference in conventional and organic agriculture. So at least 4 or 5 reasons you can remember, 4 or 5 points you can remember how these two farming are different. Farming input, so mostly chemicals and in that case on farm resources or manures, natural manures. Cropping system in conventional farming, crop rotations are not very common. They follow one kind of crop year after year and one kind of rotation year after year. Suppose it is rice wheat or maize wheat. They will do it for several years. So that is actually not rotation. That is not rotation of the crop. Rotation happens when you change the crop, the nature of crop in different years, then it is rotation. Supply of nutrients in one, it is chemical fertilizer mostly, organic manure in other. Management of insect pests mostly by chemicals And in other case, it is by natural means or crop rotations or by IPM minus pesticides. Then productivity generally higher than the organic farming. So in conventional farming, you get more yield. In organic farming, you get about 25 to, or I can say 10 to 35% less yield in organic system. In the first 5 years, the yields are lower in organic system by 10 to 35%. Soil health deteriorates over time, but in organic system, soil health is good. Aerial and soil biodiversity is improved in. No, it is other way around. Please correct it. There is a mistake. In conventional farming, it is reduced. In organic farming, it is improved. Please correct it. Food safety and quality, poor content of nutrients. And here, nutritional quality is good and food are safe. Environment, this conventional farming pollutes the environment and that is good for the environment. So please go through this. These are changes. Now some data. This is the data of 2019 and latest data available. Those who are interested, those students who are interested to see world data, country-wise data, and all kind of data related to organic in this publication, World of Organic Agriculture 2021. You can type in Google and you will get the whole book. It is published by FIBL. FIBL is an organization from Switzerland where they are producing all kind of data on organic farming, world data. So that is the only source which provide you data on organic agriculture. And this is authentic data. So you can use this World of Organic Agriculture publication. If you do not find on net, you can ask me. I can share copies of all starting from 2007 up to now. So now you see in the world, countries with organic activities, there are about 187 countries in the world which are following organic farming. Organic agricultural land in the world is 72.3 million hectares land, and you can see the change. In 1999, it was 11 million hectares. Now it is 72.3 million hectares in 2019. Now see the country, Australia has the largest area. So such kind of questions are good for quiz exam. Sometimes you may be asked, which country has highest area under organic agriculture? So it is Australia, 35.7 million hectare. The next country is 3.7 million hectare, and Spain is 2.4 million hectare. And please remember that this area is for cultivated land only. So this is your cultivated land. This is not wild harvest or forest area. It is land which can be cultivated by plow. So Australia has 35.7 million hectares. Organic share of total agricultural land in the world is 1.5%. Overall, world's 1.5% land is occupied by organic production. However, in certain countries, this though they may be very small, but area is the relative area under organic farming is high. Like Liechtenstein country, it is a very small country, very tiny country, 41% area. Austria 26% like this. And I want to tell you here that country like Mauritius is very small country, and Maldives is also very small country. These are island countries, I think, and they are they like to have 100% organic. Now, very soon, this Mauritius will convert. They are trying, and they will be converted to fully organic country. Of course, a small country. And wild collection and further non-agricultural areas. So it is in 2019, it was 35.1. And you see, Finland has highest area under wild collection. So area under organic farming, wherever is reported. So it is for two kind of lands. One is agricultural land or arable land. Other is wild collection or forest collection. So likewise in Finland, there are 4.6 million hectares of wild collection. And number of producers, of course, India leads the table. There are about 3.1 million producers in the world, out of which 1.36 million are in India. 1.36 million farmers are there in India. So India tops the list in number of producers or farmers, then Uganda and Ethiopia. Organic market, in the world, organic market is 106.4, out of which 44.7, roughly half market is in America, US. So US is the leading market in the world, and then Germany, and then France. Per capita consumption is highest in Denmark. Means people of Denmark like to eat more organic products. Switzerland and Luxembourg. So number of countries with organic regulations, 108. Means there are 187 countries, out of which 108 countries have their own regulation. Means own certification system, own standards. Now see organic farmland, I think this is seen continent-wise. So you can go through these kind of data also. So you see Oceania. Oceania means your Australia and Netherlands, New Zealand, and some other small island countries are part of Oceania. So because Australia has the highest land, therefore this Oceania region has 50% area of the world under organic system, then Europe 23% share of the total, and Latin America and so on. So you can see this data. Australia has countries with the largest area. Australia 35.7 million hectare, Argentina, Spain, USA, and so on. India has 2.3 million hectare now. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth in area in organic farming, and number 1 in number of farmers. The top 10 countries with the most organic producers, this is already covered. India, Uganda, Ethiopia. Largest market is United States of America has largest market, followed by Germany. Largest per capita consumption, Denmark, one country. And 10 countries with the largest wild collection, Finland, is already told. Now see data of India. So you see total production over years, and starting from 2010 to 2019-20. This is the latest data, 2019-20. So total production, you see, it started 3.88 and then 0.69. So this 3.88 was erroneous data. That time India started and the data was wrongly counted. So see, production was too high, which we could not achieve even in 2019-20. So many people don't believe this data of 2010-11, but others are okay. So currently we have 2.75 million tons of organic production, and total area under certification, see the last column, 2019-20. So total area is some places, somewhere it increased, then decreased. Now, that means you can see some ups and downs are there in the area, but currently it is slightly high than last 3-4 years. It was highest in 2015-16, 5.71, and then it started decreasing and decreasing, then again increasing. So some ups and downs are there, but overall it is somewhere around 3 to 4 million hectare. You can say 3 to 4 million hectare, but exact figure is 3.67 million hectare. See the total area under certified organic cultivation. So that was the total area. Now you see the area under cultivation or arable land. Arable land 0.24, 1.8. So it is increasing. There is a trend, set trend. It is almost increasing with some exceptions. And now we have 2.3 million hectare of cultivated land in India under organic cultivation. And then total area under certified wild harvest. Wild harvest means your herbs or jari booty or your things which we take from forest, products of the forest, like your honey, etc. So those things which are received from the wild harvest. Area under, certified area under that is 1.37. So 1.37 wild harvest, 2.3 cultivated area. If you total it, it is 3.67 in year 2019-20, which is total area under certification. So now, can you stay for next 15-20 minutes, or should I finish the class here?
Okay, sir. No problem.
Can I continue?
Okay, sir.
Continue,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
It is your choice, your choice. So I can continue 10-15 minutes more, because it will take time. It is not, it is somewhat lengthy lecture, but I will be slowly speaking. So now just 15 minutes more. So need for organic farming. Now, just we have seen, I've shown you some area, production, and the countries, and some information about it, some differences in organic and conventional farming, and three kind of different farming like integrated crop management, organic farming, chemical farming. And in the beginning, we have seen some definitions, some differences in organic farming and organic agriculture. And we have also seen some price difference. And of course, we have seen some principles of organic farming. So now the new topic starts, the fresh topic starts, that is need for organic farming. Why we require organic farming, or consequences of modern farming, or why organic farming. So answer of these three questions is one. If somebody asks what are the consequences of modern farming, of chemical farming, how it is affecting the life of the farmer, life of the soil or plant, or why one should go for organic farm, why there is need to go for organic farm. So answer is same. There is one answer to both the questions. So first is that conventional farming have several issues, several consequences, decline in factor productivity and economics. So what is happening, I need not to explain it in much detail. You know about farmer suicides. Why farmers are committing suicides in Andhra Pradesh, in Maharashtra, even in Punjab. In Punjab, 3 or 4 generations have made suicide. Have you seen that news? The father made suicide. The father made suicide. The young son of 25 years old, he also made suicide. So suicide is happening in generations. I'm not glorifying it. One should not go for suicide. But there are circumstances where people have committed suicide. So why the farmers are committing suicide? We need to look into that. The reason is simple, that they are on loss. They are on loss due to one reason or other reason. See, cotton farmers, they grow cotton and they spend very huge money on cotton when they buy the seed. BT seeds are very expensive. Now, what is happening for few years, for few first years, this BT cotton was introduced in year, I forgot, you can tell me. In which year BT cotton was introduced in India? Was it 2002 or
Yes, sir. Yes.
2007?
2002.
I don't remember
2002, sir.
correctly. Okay. So it may be 2000. Okay, 2002. Then productivity of cotton started increasing because the main pests were suppressed, the bollworms were suppressed. But later on, after 6, 7 years or 8 years, now other pests became very dominant. These minor pests have become major pests. Whitefly has become major pest of cotton. There may be many more insects which were never known to harm the cotton, but now they may have become the major pest. So ultimately, farmer crop is getting suffered. The crop is being eaten by insect, whether it is A insect or B insect. The insects are coming to the cotton, even to the BT cotton. Now farmers are again using a lot of pesticides, insecticides, and they don't have money. They go to bank, they go to local money lender, they invest the money, and in the end, many times they are not able to save their crop. It vanishes. So they don't have option. They consume the same pesticide, same insecticide. It's not new everywhere. Every one of you know it. So what I want to say here is that farmer is adding more and more inputs, and the productivity of input is going less. Instead of one spray, now he's sometimes before, say 10 or 20 years before, he needed just 1 or 2 sprays to control insect of cotton. Now he is going for 15 or 16 sprays to control the insect. Means the productivity of his factor, that is insecticide, has gone down. That is the meaning of this decline in factor productivity and economics. So similarly, it can be applicable to other factors also, like your fertilizer. If a particular patch of land was producing X yield, and he was using 1 bag of urea or 1 bag of fertilizer. Now to get the same yield, now he has to apply 2 bags of urea. That means his output is same, but his input has doubled. So input has doubled, input is your factor. So factor has doubled means each unit of nitrogen or each unit of fertilizer is producing less and less with the passage of the time. I tell you one case here, nitrogen use efficiency of rice. Our teacher, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, used to tell us that 1 kg nitrogen will give you 30 to 35 kg grain of rice. Now I am teaching that it gives you 15 to 20 kg grain of rice. You can see nitrogen is 1 kg, but say 25 or 30 years before, this 1 kg nitrogen was giving you 35 kg grain, but now it is giving you 15 to 20 kg grain. So that means nitrogen is same 1 kg. So its productivity has gone down. So decline in factor productivity. You can consider, you can just think over other factors also. That is why this Sharad Joshi was a farmer supporter, some kind of person. He described the Indian farmers' plight perfectly. He had said that, "Marte tum bhi ho, marte hum bhi hai. We are also dying, you are also dying. We are also dying, you are also dying. We die by selling cheaper," this is for farmers, "and you die by buying costlier." Means farmers sell cheaper and consumer buy costlier. So neither farmer nor consumer are happy. So both are suffering from this. Now, besides decline in factor productivity, unsafe food. You just go to any newspaper and just type pesticide residues in vegetable or food. Every day in any newspaper, anywhere, you'll find a lot of reports that these unsafe, these pesticides have crossed their limit. So for every pesticide, there is maximum residue limit. That can be there. I think you understand what is pesticide residue in food. So there is MRL, maximum residue limit fixed by government for every pesticide. But we never bother to follow it. We make use of pesticide indiscriminately. Just now I told you case of cotton. Of course, cotton is not eaten by human beings, but it will definitely, if you use so much of pesticide, directly or indirectly, those pesticides shall remain in the environment. They may remain in soil, they may remain in plant, or they may remain in environment or air or water. So, or soil. So you are not going to remove those pesticides. There are certain vegetables like your brinjal, tomato, lady's finger, your cucumber, your kheera, where almost every alternate day people are spraying the pesticides. And greenhouses, now people are promoting greenhouses too much, but I'm not in favor of these greenhouses personally, because they also favor more insect pest and disease. In many long time established greenhouses, now people are doing everyday pesticide use. So as a consumer, you need to be very cautious about buying products from greenhouses. So unsafe food I will discuss later also in detail. Reduce biodiversity in agroecosystems means your biodiversity is reduced. We are cutting the forest. We are growing just few crops. In 1960s or before Green Revolution, In Punjab, farmers were growing about 20 crops. 18 to 20 different kind of crops were grown by the farmers. But now they are hardly growing 5 or 6 crops in Punjab. In whole Punjab, you can find 5 or 6 common crops. And this is happening in every state. Now we are getting very specialized farming, growing very few crops. If you go to this Western UP area now, you will find whole area is covered by 2 crops. One is sugarcane and other maybe basmati rice. And except 2 crops, you will not find any crop. Go to Rajasthan in winter months, you will find just mustard, only mustard. Go to Rajasthan in the rainy season, just pulse millet. Go to any part of India. So we got hardly 2, 3, 4, 5 different kind of crops in one particular region. That means the diversity of the crops has reduced. You will agree to it. The diversity of the crops have reduced in many, many areas. We have abundant several grains or several pulses, several local things in our country. We are loser. So if your above ground biodiversity is reduced, then definitely the species which was dependent upon those species, those plant species which were grown earlier, now those plant or crop species are not there. So organisms which were dependent upon those species have already gone. They must have died. They are no more there. Similarly, if we reduce this biodiversity, there will be reduced biodiversity of the soil. If we have 10 or 8 or different kind of crops in the rotation, so they will release different kind of compounds into the soil through this root exudates. And these root exudates will be tested by, if you have variety of root exudates, then all variety of organism can be happy. So they are most of the time you get a crop specific organism. So what I mean to say here is that if you have more above ground biodiversity, it is bound to increase more below ground biodiversity. More above ground, more below ground, because they complement each other. They complement each other. Sometimes the insects or things which are living in soil, they can be used by the organisms which are living above the soil, living on the plant. In nature, did anybody ever spray insecticide or pesticide in forest area natural system? They are very green, they are sufficient. The biomass productivity of forest area is very high, but nobody is spraying pesticide there. So what is happening there? The nature itself is making a balance there, and there is least human interference. So the system is automatically doing everything. But here in our artificial ecosystem, we have broken the ecological cycles by destroying the biodiversity, above ground biodiversity. So reduced biodiversity in the agroecosystem is also responsible for reduced sustainability of the conventional farming. Means this conventional farming or chemical farming has done a lot of damage, and one damage is that it has reduced the biodiversity of agroecosystem. Agroecosystem means our farming land, our artificial systems, decreased quality of soil, water, and air. I need not to explain much. Decreased quality of soil means quality of soil is the capacity of soil to perform its function. Soil performs 6 different kind of function, 5 or 6 function. One important function is to support the plant. Number 2, to filter the chemical or toxic material from the soil, to detoxify the toxic material, to pass on the water from the soil. It is house of several organisms. You can make your buildings or structures on the soil. So number of functions are performed by the soil. If soil is able to perform all these functions normally, then we can say that soil is having good quality or good health. If soil is not able to perform all these functions properly or efficiently, then that particular soil is not healthy. It is having poor quality. So what these pesticides or fertilizers are doing to the soil, what the modern method of farming are doing to the soil, they are reducing its quality. They are also reducing the water quality. A lot of pesticides or nitrate can leach down, they can reach the groundwater, And also these pesticides or phosphorus, phosphatic fertilizers can run away through the runoff. They can reach the water bodies, they can reach the lakes, they can reach the ponds, rivers, or oceans. And you know, this phosphorus enrichment or nitrogen enrichment in oceans or water bodies causing eutrophication, and which is responsible for death of fishes, death of aquatic life, and so on. So overall, you can see this is a cycle, kind of cycle. If you put one bad thing in one place, it can go to another place, go to another place. If you put pesticide in the soil, it can be carried to the water, it can be carried to the human food, or it can carry to the air also sometimes. When you do spraying, that time pesticide can be mixed in the air. So air quality is also reduced by the conventional farming. Environmental pollution, and ultimately these are the results of course, they are not the result of solely from the farming, agriculture. We should not blame that much to the agriculture. It is one of the pollutants, our farming, but that is not really the major reason. Major reason lies somebody else. We should not blame our agriculture too much. We can blame other things also, like burning of fossil fuel, or some industries and a lot of human consumption and industries or factories. There are so many things which are polluting the environment, which are polluting the soil. Now there is a trend, certain factories or industries, they are injecting the polluted water into the groundwater. Because now Supreme Court says that you cannot drain out your waste material into the Ganga River or Jamna River. So what those industries are doing, they are injecting their waste water or waste material back into the ground. Can you imagine? They make tube well or some structure through which they inject the pollutants into the groundwater. It is happening. So this environmental pollution is not just contributed by agriculture. There are some other players also, and agriculture is a minor player. And then, of course, you get global warming and problems related to this. So human and agricultural activities are responsible for environmental pollution. So it is not just agriculture, soil, water, air, food. The air pollution is mainly responsible for global warming, which is leading to the climate changes. And the soil, air, and water pollution is thus affecting all kind of lives, climate, and food quality or quantity. So chain reaction happens everywhere. Chain reactions are there. If you kill me, I will kill you. It is like this. So if you pollute me, I will give you trouble. So now it is just a summary of the things what we discussed now. General consequences of conventional farming, decline in factor productivity we discussed, and now your question will be there. That, sir, you told us that you need to use 2 bags of urea now to get the same productivity what we were getting from 1 bag of urea 20 years before. Now, what are the reasons why this factor productivity is going down? What are the causes of that? Why now farmers need to make 15 spray in place of 5 spray to control the pest of the cotton? So why the productivity of individual factor is going down? So what are the reasons for this? There are many reasons. In this case, the topmost is that our soils are not healthy. Reduced soil health or fertility. So these soils are so poor now, they cannot carry the plant load or plant growth at their own. So you need to, they are already mined, their nutrient levels are depleted. So every time you need to add more and more. If a person is hungry, he will definitely like to eat more. If your soils are hungry, they will like to eat more and to produce the same kind of growth. So finally, what will be the consequence of decline factor productivity? Decline returns. Now your food is unsafe. Second is unsafe food, mainly because of pesticides. Pesticides are quite dangerous. Fertilizers are not that much dangerous as pesticides. So what is happening? Use of banned and other pesticides. People are using banned pesticides. DDT, BSC, they had been very, very harmful to soil and human beings. But in the market, you can buy DDT, which was banned 40 to 50 years before, maybe 35 or 40 years before. So those pesticide banned long back, they are still in the market and people are using them. So who will stop them? Why those pesticides were banned? Because they were too much harmful. But you will still find the residues of these pesticides in our foods, in our soils. So what happens? The important consequence of this is declined biological soil health, and nitrates and heavy metal contamination may also make our food unsafe, and the important consequences is reduced health of animals and humans and cancer, etc. by heavy metals. So this is just summary. Reduced nutritional quality. Now your nutritional quality reduction means, suppose your protein was 25%. Now if you have 22% protein, that is reduced nutritional quality. You used to have say 100 ppm iron in one food. Now you get just 50 ppm iron in that food. So here your nutritional quality has reduced. So it happened in the conventional food where the nutritional quality has gone down. So what are the causes of that? Climate change. I will explain later how this climate change is reducing the nutritional quality, and reduce soil fertility. If your soil does not contain zinc, how your food will contain the zinc? So automatically, if our soils are deficient in micronutrient, if it is deficient in sulfur, how it can produce sulfur containing amino acid? So quality of the product will decline. If your soil fertility is reduced, because health of the soil is related to health of plant and then health of the human beings. So what will be the consequences of reduced nutritional quality? Reduced immunity. Your immunity will reduce because your protein, your vitamin, your minerals content, if it decline in your food, you are taking the same quantity of food, but your content is declined, then what will you do? Today, one of my friends told me, he was sick. I told him, friend, you eat almonds, badam khao, eat almonds. And what did he say? That people are quite intelligent. They have got the technique. They will take out the oil, the oil which is for fat of the badam or almonds away from the almonds. So they have techniques to extract the oil or fat from almonds, which the consumer will not know. Similarly, you go to spices, several spices which have volatile oils. So people extract those volatile oils and keep for their use for some other purposes, sell it. And then what you take there, kali mirch or long, whatever you take, the main constituent has been already taken by people. What we are eating is nothing. It is just fiber. So people are taking a lot of good things from the food item these days. This was really quite surprising to me to note it down, that these masalas or spices, some people extract the oil from them or maybe from almonds. So they take out the most precious thing for which you want to buy those things. So reduce nutritional quality, climate change, reduce soil fertility. And so now reduce immunity. So those kind of food items will contain less nutritional thing, because these fatty acids are also essential. Your amino acids are also essential. Protein is also essential. So that way, maybe I do not know if people can remove the vitamins from the food or foods. I don't know, but the day is not far away than when human being will be able to extract vitamin D or vitamins from your food items, and then they will sell the roughage in the market. So if your if your food is not rich in nutrients, then definitely your immunity will reduce. In the days of Corona, I remember there were many people, many promoters of organic farming who would say people should eat organic food to prevent Corona. It was there. And somewhere, anyway, people use their things. So increase incidence of disease in human. If your immunity is reduced, then definitely you are susceptible to several diseases. So This is really very, very important. These diseases can be directly caused by poisonous things. The pesticide can reach our body. They can cause disease in us. This is one. And secondly, if our food is poor in nutrition, then we are susceptible to incidence of diseases. So I can finish it here, and we will meet next time. When can we meet? Next time.